It's your boy Ancient Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AD or Alpha Dean. We have Spigs18 or Anthony. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and give us a subscribe over on YouTube. It is greatly appreciated. We keep growing our numbers, and the more we grow, the better we can get, and we can't do that without your support. And a huge thank you to everyone who's given us support to get us to where we are now. It is super appreciated. But yeah, Dean, what are we doing here tonight?
Well, first of all, I have to say hello to everybody. Missed you guys last week. Life happens, all that good stuff. And, Anthony is back. He made it back from the land of the hurricanes. But that being said, the crew is together, and we're going to talk about nothing less than, I should say, the campaign that's going on right now, which is already funded. I mean, which is close to $1.2 million. And that's none other than the Magnus Archive on Backerkit right now. This is a freaking amazing campaign so far. Just 2 days in and almost at $1.2 million. So without further ado, I'm going to just smack the ball over to Anthony and let him get us started.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the CU. It's been a minute. I was almost trapped in South Carolina for a hot second because of the hurricane, but I'm back. I'm happy to be with my brothers to talk all things Magnus Archives. So yeah, I think the easiest thing before we even get into it, let's just go over the numbers from the Backerkit, because I think that all our guests from a couple of weeks ago might be blown away because there's 22 days left and they're already at almost 1.2 million. It's freaking crazy. So I'm not even sure. They got 6,700 backers already, which is crazy as well. And it's still only 22 days left.
I want to say one thing real quick before you proceed with the stats, just because it's funny. When I went to go look up the numbers, to type it in the notes, the current backer count was 6699. Quite nice. It's great to see that it's gone up, but that was the exact number when I looked it up. It was just very funny.
What was the highest number on our guests?
I don't recall. I
2 million something was the high. I know I wrote it down somewhere here.
I'm talking about Old Gods of Appalachia. It was 2.1 million.
No, we're talking about the guesses for this one.
Oh, I told you 3.3 million.
Oh yeah, 3.3. You think it's gonna hit that number?
I think so.
At this rate, yes. If they keep trending like they're trending, yes.
Yeah, I think I passed that number. There's 22 days left, dude.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy, right?
It's insane what we saw in these first 2 days. Wow. I think, and Monty said this in KedHub's interview. He recently talked to our good friend KedHub here. He's in the chat. You can link this if you'd like to, Ked. He recently talked to Monte Cook Games, Jonathan Sims, and Alex Newell. Hopefully I said his last name correct. But either way, the Magnus Archives guy. And Monty had said that even and whenever they had talked, I forget what it was at. It was sub 1 million. But he was like, our biggest Kickstarter was Numenera. Numenera broke all kinds of records when it first came out. And Magnus Archives already shattered all those numbers on its first day. It's insane.
The insanity is that it funded in
27 minutes.
27 minutes it funded. And I mean, and then within a day, it was at 919,000 in the first 24 hours. At least when I went to lay down, and now it's 1.1 million already.
And the last 48 hours is always, you usually get
Another big spike. Another huge
spike. And that huge spike might be 1 million.
Yeah, the huge spike towards the end, I feel like is very similar to the huge spike towards the front. The huge spike we saw at the start of this. So yeah, it could very well be in the million range on the last 2 days, just tacked on there, which is going to be insane to see.
Speaking of Monty, yeah, definitely go check out KedHub's. But Monty will also be on this stream next Thursday as well. He's gonna. We actually breaking it up a little bit. We're gonna have Monty on next week, and have the Magnus Archive guys on either the following week or the week after. But we definitely are getting all three of them on to talk about Magnus Archives. But we have Monty coming on next week, so I'm excited for that.
I'm
Exciting
pretty excited
times
about that
indeed.
myself.
Yeah, so let's talk about Magnus Archives because I will fully admit I am not very well versed in Magnus Archives. So Al, you probably have the most experience listening to the podcast. Break it down for us, and why is everyone so excited?
Well, I'll just read what Monte Cook Games put on the website because it's a pretty good description that's spoiler free. I feel like if I try to talk too much about it, I might lay in on some spoilers. So let me just read what they wrote, because they're in the Backerkit. There's a specific section that even says if you don't want spoilers, don't read past this point. So pre that, everything is spoiler free. So I will go ahead and read their thing. And to answer your question really quick, Maya, it is a setting. It is a podcast, 200 episode podcast from Rusty Quill. And yeah, it is a setting that Monte Cook Games is adapting to the Cypher system, which we are beyond excited about. But yeah, let me go ahead and read their little blurb. Let me pull up my notes here, which I don't know where they are. I'm a bad host. There we go. Oh, my notes are all over the place. I am terrible. There we go. All right, so statement begins, and this is, again, the description of the Magnus Archives from Monte Cook Games via the Backerkit. The Magnus Archives is an award-winning horror fiction anthology podcast examining what lurks in the archives of the Magnus Institute, an organization dedicated to researching the esoteric and the weird. It follows the actions of head archivist Jonathan Sims as he attempts to bring a seemingly neglected collection of supernatural statements up to date, converting them to audio and supplementing them with follow-up work from his small but dedicated team. Individually, these stories, these statements, are unsettling. Together, they begin to form a picture that is truly horrifying because as Jonathan and his team look into the depths of the archives, something starts to look back. And now, finally, you can enter the archives for yourself as a player or as a GM, investigating the supernatural horrors found in the podcast or those you create on your own. Work alongside Jonathan and Martin, Basira, Daisy, and the rest of the staff. Encounter the not them, the anglerfish, and the man upon the stair. Learn the truth of the books of Jürgen Leitner, the coffin that is also a pit, and the People's Church of the Divine Host. And yeah, that is the synopsis they present forth. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good breakdown. And yeah, it is. If you have not listened to this, go listen to this as soon as this stream is over. Start it right now. It's 200 episodes. It's going to take you quite a while unless you binge it like I did. If you binge it, you might be able to finish it before the campaign ends. But yeah, quite a bit of content with this show.
And so for a newbie, like someone like me who's not entirely familiar with the setting, right? Are you playing investigators in this like supernatural investigation team, or
Correct?
How do you think it's actually going to work in the game?
I'll let you go ahead, dude.
If you look at the quick start, they literally start. That's what they talk about, being investigators, and going through the archives. That's actually an argument some people were talking about on the server. Someone was saying that they didn't like the overarching meta idea because the initial stories that they were listening to was just a one-man show. And they're like, well, how are you going to do that in game? But as you listen to the podcast, the cast grows and they become, a team, and you start getting into field investigations and stuff like that. So it's very... what I'm digging about it in the thought process with me, I don't know if Al sees it the same way, but I'm thinking that, after you listen to the 200 episodes of the archive, you can pick your game up like right at the end of that and kind of, build on there. So your teams or whatever. It really depends on how you want to do it.
So
but I don't know if there's like a finite ending.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you haven't finished it, right? So I will say this, just to be spoiler free. might be kind of hard to pick up where the thing ends. I will just say that.
Okay.
I see it more as probably, again, playing within the world that we see within the, the setting, the world. It's modern day, so it'd be modern day horror. But I can also see us playing the multiple statements we see from various time points in history. I guess it really depends on your GM. Because as, again, for, regular listeners to the podcast, you would know this, but just for newcomers, the statements that are read are kind of from all over time. Like, the Institute, I believe, is about 200 or so years old. I forget exactly what year it was founded, but statements go back about that far. So I can see this book being a way to guide players to either playing within the modern day setting where they're, dealing with the whole overarching story that Magnus Archives deals with, or, one shots where you're just playing the statements themselves.
Well, Ketup just said no spoilers, but Monty said the podcast ends perfectly for the RPG to pick up after.
That's interesting.
It also says in the promo that it's based on the entirety of all 5 seasons. And it says here, I'll just read this, but it says, if you listened all the way through to the end of the podcast, you know that, oh, hold on, this might be some spoilers. So cover your ears if you don't want spoilers.
Oh my God. Spoilers ahead. Please skip to 14 minutes, 47 seconds to avoid the Magnus Archive spoilers. Sorry and thank you. Love, Ancient. Mwah. This guy's reading. Go ahead.
You know that all the supernatural and esoteric happenings are due to the entities of fear. This game goes into this in depth. Moreover, you know that in the universe of the podcast, the entities are no longer present thanks to the sacrifices made by John and Martin and the rest of the team. So for the game, we decided that each GM will create their own reality that has been exposed to the freed entities. This means that you're free to use anything from the podcast and free to change anything you wish. Is the Magnus Archive in London or does it lie elsewhere? Perhaps with a different name in history. Is Jonathan Sims the head archivist or is it someone else, even a PC? The game will provide all the guidance you need to create a setting and a campaign that mirrors as much or as little as the podcast as you want. I really love it that they make it open-ended that way.
Bruh, you just read the ending out loud, right?
Anybody that goes to the Backerkit is going to be able to read this.
No, there's a warning on the page that says don't go past here if you don't want spoilers.
I said cover your ears. You remember that thing where people were little kids and were like, earmuffs?
Yo, bro, you broke so many fandom taboos doing what you just did. That's hilarious. No, it's just funny. It is so hilarious. No, bruh. Anyways, that is quite exciting, though, just to get it back on track.
We'll cut it out and post editing.
I'm fucking dying, but that is super exciting news. Just to get us back on the ball here. I was slightly hoping for that because again, the ending. I'm not gonna speak too much on it, but it seems again like there's a lot to read into, and it's awesome they're letting GMs do that for their games. Like that's amazing.
Well, once again, and I'll say it, and everybody likes to. Give me shit about it, but that's classic MCG. That's classic Monty. He loves to take something, give you a whole pile of stuff, and still not give you everything. And then you have to go and do it yourself. I love that. I love being inspired to create. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
They also mentioned that they're adding a new stress mechanic.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second.
I mean, we could just dive into that now. The new mechanics that we see in the primer.
We did say it earlier. I'm just gonna look real quick. So we're at 1.189 million. So $1,189,583 as we speak. And when they hit 1.2, it's another stretch goal. So
yep, we haven't hit the stretch goals yet. but
Well, we
yeah,
hit
we
We
two
are.
already.
Oh, we will.
We've hit two already.
no, I mean
Yes.
we haven't started discussing the stretch goals.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you want to do that before we dive into the primer?
No, yeah. Let's just talk
Let's do
about the
that.
mechanics of the game and all that because it makes more sense if we go over the stretch goals towards the end.
That works.
Mm.
All right, let me
But
pull
yeah,
up the primer.
what do you guys think the stress mechanic is going to be?
Well, it's listed. So what's kind of cool about it? It's
I haven't seen anything, Dean. So I'm asking the question from someone that hasn't seen anything.
I got you. What I'm saying is it's just kind of cool because it's a variation. Well, let me pull it up right quick. It's right here.
Oh, jeez. I
What's wrong?
goofed. No, I made this too big. Don't worry about it. Keep talking.
So the stress mechanic is basically a variation on, things that we've talked about in game, how we want to make the game a little more gritty or whatever. So those two, the stress mechanic and what's the other one? Oh my
Serious
God.
injury.
Yeah, serious injury. Just make the game a little bit more gritty and brings things into perspective. But give me a second and I'll pull up the rule itself. Where is
I
it
can read it. I got it up.
Oh, you got it. Go ahead, Al. Because I didn't have it up yet.
Yeah, no, I'll go for it. So we'll talk about stress first. It's a little more in depth than the other one. So stress, and I really enjoy this. Actually, I wrote a breakdown of it in the notes, so I'm going to read the breakdown because it's quicker. This is why we write notes. All right, so the stress mechanic. So stressful things can apply 1 to 3 stress damage to players, depending on how traumatic it is. Once 3 stress damage is accumulated, you gain 1 stress level. Each stress level a player has hinders all their actions by 1 step per stress level. So stress levels are very bad. But there's a flip side to them. There's a positive. Stress levels also become a resource for players to use, and they can burn the stress levels to ease tasks in tense situations or to gain supernatural abilities. It talks about that a little more, like, there's a little more wording to it, but that's the gist of it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and yeah, I'm excited to see how it actually plays out.
If you think about it, it's just a nice twist on, the stress mechanics and stuff from like other games like Call of Cthulhu, Shock and Madness and stuff like that.
But it kind of cipherizes it and makes it
Right.
a resource to use as well.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. It's really a twist on it, but it's really cool as hell because,
So
like you
what's
said,
since the maximum stress you could get is 3?
no,
There's no
No,
max
no,
to
no.
stress levels, but as soon as you get 3 stress damage, it turns into 1 stress level.
right.
Oh,
Yeah, and let me read this part real fast, just because I like how it describes how you burn the stress to do stuff. So let me read that verbatim because it's really interesting. A desperate character can use their stress as a temporary advantage. If they have at least 1 stress level, they turn that into a one-time bonus on a single action, burning the stress and easing the task by 1 step. Doing so represents a sort of manic energy. While this means a reduction in a character's stress level, the GM immediately uses an intrusion and increases the overall tension and danger of the situation. Stress cannot be used by a character who is not already in a tense situation, nor can it be used on a defensive action. So yeah, it seems really cool, and I really like how they described it as like a manic energy.
it's a lot. And it also hinders all your actions by 1 step. So the higher stress level, the harder it is to do anything else.
So you're gonna want to be burning it, and that's what a good incentive to be using it, which is again great like gameplay loop.
Yeah.
So, and and that's what I'm saying. And you should just go ahead. We should have just went over the other side of it too, Al, where it talks about how the supernatural powers work too. Because it says, lastly, in certain situations, characters can trade stress for supernatural powers. These powers represent how a character is changed by their experiences. Depending on the power, the player might not have complete control over their new ability, at least not at first. in what can only be described as a horrific irony, using such powers almost always inflicts additional stress on the character. So it's like a crazy trade-off. You got this power, but you got to be selective in when you use it, or you may up your stress levels, and so on, or take more stress damage. It's just a really cool
Correct
idea.
me if I'm wrong, if I'm misunderstanding this. So, say if you have like 4 stress, right? That means that all your other actions are hindered by 4 steps.
Yes.
Yeah, but to get to 4 levels of stress, you would have to endure 12 stress damage, which again would probably take a long time.
Or
And-
you could use the thing to utilize the stress, because doesn't it give you a stress to
Well-
give the superpower, like what Dean just said?
Yes,
No.
but again, like they said though, even though if you use a stress level, then you're automatically, getting a bonus on whatever you're doing, but you're also going to incur a GM intrusion if you do that. And also, if you get a supernatural power, using that power will cause stress damage.
Yeah, that's what I said. So yeah, that's what I meant. Like, using that power could increase your stress level.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So
Well,
you
it gives you stress damage, and once you take 3 stress damage, then you get 1 stress level.
yes.
Correct.
And that's, like I said, that's what makes it going to make it interesting overall, because, say a person does pick up a power, then now it really becomes part of the narrative when they're going to be using that type of ability, because, you think about it, you're going to get more stress. The GM gets to, get GM intrusions and stuff. And this one specifically says too, that the GM intrusion is, a serious complication, in those situations. It has to be done in already a tense and dangerous situation. So that makes it that much more of an ante too.
I also wonder then, I mean, first of all, I think this could be applied to a lot of different games besides Magnus Archives. You
Correct.
can use it.
Yeah, these are, like I said, more gritty rules. These are rules to make any game more gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am really
remember,
enjoying this iteration of the stress mechanic. Like,
you remember,
this is yeah.
in the rules that I wrote stress and fatigue. And fatigue is similar, kind of similar to how they got serious injury set up. But it doesn't take you down the damage track, but it's just saying that this is cool. So that's the next mechanic that they introduce into the game, is serious injury.
Just to go one step further, just on stress, it also states that you can use a recovery roll to recover stress as well. That's worth mentioning.
Cool.
Yeah, it says spending time in a relatively safe and relaxing space reduces stress. So do other factors like food, drink, nearby friends, or even a nice dog to pet. So,
I really like this.
I'm gonna have to admit though, and once again, like with any new mechanic, right? I would have to see it at the table, because I wonder if this is this going to be like additional bookkeeping that's going to get forgotten, like over the course of a game. The GM might forget, or the players might forget to accumulate their stress damage. I mean,
it definitely
accumulate to the points. I will actually have to see this played out on the table to really. I mean, it sounds good on paper. I just want to see how practical it is.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, and anytime they introduce a new mechanic like that, it's automatically more bookkeeping in my book until I become used to it. So like, if I was running this, I'm going to tell you right now, I'd probably have a piece of paper with a little grid with every player's name on it, and have what their current stress level was listed at.
I'm pretty sure that the downloadable character sheets are going to have it.
Yeah, they'll probably have that, but I'm saying as the GM, because, especially if it's going to be an ongoing campaign or something and not a one-shot.
I will say this though real quick, since you mentioned it and I didn't think about it. I cannot wait to see the TMA character sheets.
And the other question I have, when they said special powers, I wonder if the actual book is going to have a list of suggested special powers.
Ideally, and MCG, please hear me out on this. There will be a unique list for, again, I don't want to say spoilers, but there should be a unique list of things for you to pick from based on certain things. Ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Without knowing the setting, because you want to make it a setting, specific to the game, to the show, right? So I'm wondering if there's gonna be like a list that someone that follows the show be like, oh, like that, aha, oh, I know that,
Yeah.
that's for the show.
I'm hoping they, instead of, because this is Cypher system, right? The CSR is freaking huge. So the easy route would be, flavoring the current abilities we have to fit, what we're talking about here. The harder route, and what I'm hoping we see, is a list of unique, brand new abilities just for this in that fashion that I mentioned, like a list for each of the categories. Again, I don't want to be too specific about that, but yeah. That would be freaking awesome.
Well, I mean, you think about it, if they hold true to standard MCG, especially when they do the books like this as standalones, Magnus Archives is going to be a completely encapsulated book. You won't need the CSR or anything to run this. So I'm quite confident in MCG that we're going to get the curated lists and items and so on and so forth that we've come to love and expect. I'm pretty excited. Like I said, I'm only just finishing up the first season, and I'm like totally stoked about this.
I would think, if they want to be true to the actual show, that they would put something in there, and it's also good for someone that may either just be getting into the show, or someone like me who doesn't know anything about it, right? If I picked up this, even though I'm probably going to listen to the show prior to the book coming out, but pick up the book and be like, okay, I get a general idea. This is what's unique to this show. It just like it helps the imagination for a new person. And everyone's saying list of 14 powers. I'm assuming that has some significance.
Well, if you look at the back of the primer as well, they actually already step you into the world itself. So like they've already said that there are going to be 4 types: protector, investigator, also called a researcher, elocutionist, and a dabbler. And then they talk about like
those are the character types, Dean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's at the bottom, player characters, like it's on the second to last page. I'll read it out loud. Dean basically just said them all. Protector, investigator, elocutionist, and dabbler.
Okay, so I'm assuming protector's warrior, right?
Yeah.
Investigator would be what?
Probably an explorer. No, I think the dabbler is going to be the explorer. Investigator.
Nah, I think it's gonna be again protector, warrior, investigator, explorer, elocutionist, speaker, and dabbler, adept.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
There's magic in this, or witchcraft, I would assume.
For
There's
not
eldritch power.
I will say just yes, period, and I'm not gonna go beyond that. But yes, I'm trying to be as spoiler-free as possible.
And right here,
standalone books, Cypher standalone books.
Say that again.
I really like when they do the standalone Cypher system books with their own character types. It's always cool.
And look, and here's another thing I've noticed. They kind of play things close to the vest, but when you look at the descriptors that they put in, of course, fearless, skeptical, but scholarly isn't a normal descriptor, and studies of supernatural is a new focus.
Neither is hopeful. Is hopeful from any?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah,
But that also might be a new
scholarly
one.
or hopeful. I don't know.
but that's what I'm saying.
I
So
think those are both
right there, we're seeing new descriptors, and
Am I
studies of
frozen?
supernatural is another a new focus. So I'm like I said, I think we're in for a treat overall. I'm pretty excited for it. You know,
Oh, there goes Anthony, I guess.
you lost Anthony again.
Let's just continue, I guess. The stream looks all messed up. Oh, there he goes. Welcome back, Anthony.
Oh, just to answer Zeus, no, I have not heard the podcast. I have purposely avoided everything. I haven't read the primer. I literally was on vacation for 2 weeks. I came back.
Go listen to it as soon as the stream is over. Me too, Zeus. Me too. 100%.
Yeah, I've only listened to the first season because I was listening to two other books at the same time. But now those books are done, so it's time for me to dive completely and do these next 4 seasons.
It's so good, man. Oh my god.
Before
me,
we
I'm not-
deep dive into everything else, I want to ask these two questions. I asked you guys offline, but I'm very curious to see what chat has to say. And the first question is, what do you guys think of the cover? Because on Reddit, like the suggested cover for Magnus Archive, on Reddit, it's sort of like mixed reviews. So what do you guys think of the cover? The tape recorder.
There we go. What you call it? I love it. Again, I can see as someone who doesn't know anything about the Magnus Archives, like, if you're just coming into this blind, like, you might just be a fan of Cypher System or whatever, you might find it boring or something like that because it's just a tape recorder on a desk. Like, ooh, what's the big deal? It's such a big deal for the setting. And yeah, it's an excellent choice for what should be on the cover. And just to touch on it just a little bit, even though it's not presented on the screen here or wasn't mentioned, the deluxe edition cover is amazing. It is a reference to a book you see in the show, the Bone Turner's Tale, I believe. And yeah, it is super good. But yeah, we're talking about the regular one. I still love the tape recorder.
And I'll say this about it. I'll say this about it. Especially knowing, like Al said, especially knowing what the thrust of the podcast is. That cover is brilliant. It is done, and it's done in such a way that it evokes for me, and this will date myself, but Anthony, you'll get it. In the whole thing with the Magnus Archives, it gives you the feeling of the old TV show, The Night Stalker, Carl Kolchak. It gives you that, but only thing is it takes it to a whole nother level, more, way further than the Night Stalker. So I'm looking at that evocative nature, and a lot of people have been complaining about the other artwork, saying it's black and white and with the colors.
Second question, D, you jumping ahead. The chat seems to be a little bit. Most people saying they're not blown away by the cover. Me personally, I will admit, when I first saw it, I was a little like, this doesn't necessarily draw me. Like if I didn't know the show and I saw this, I would assume that it's detective-y, like some, like it wasn't necessarily wow me, but I understand why the cover. Like after talking to people who listen to the show and say, no, it's really important. The tape recorder, like if you're a fan of the show, you're gonna understand why. But if someone isn't a fan of the show and saw this on the bookshelf, they might not necessarily be drawn to the.
And see, and again, I guess again, maybe it's just because I'm older, but if I saw that book on the shelf and that title, it's calling me. It's like I want to know what the fuck is the Magnus Archives, because my thought process is I guess maybe because I've read so much stuff, but archives, the word Magnus, all of that is evoking like different thought processes for me. And then I see all of these files. So first thing I went to was like X Files or some strangeness. So you know,
Well, D just says it speaks to boomers specifically.
not a boomer. Don't
What you
insult
call
me.
it? I will say
I
this
am not.
though.
No, no, hold on. For everybody out there, I am not a boomer. Do not get it twisted. I
No,
am the
but
ultimate generation. I am an X baby. Get it right.
in his defense, if you it's like maybe it's my age. If you lead with maybe it's my age.
No. I'm a Gen Xer. Just get over it.
Uh, I completely forgot what I was gonna say now.
My point is with the cover, I understand now, but I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw it, my mind went to detective, like RPG. Like what was that? A Top Secret or something like that. Just by looking at the cover and not knowing anything. If you took away the Magnus Archives and just showed me that cover, made me think of a detective RPG.
I mean, it kind of is. The whole story of the Magnus Archives is trying to uncover the mystery of what's going on. So, if you boil it really down, it is a mystery detective type thing, just with a lot of other stuff in there.
Question I'm gonna ask that was a really big debate on Reddit, which kind of surprised me, was what do you think of the art? The art style seems to be, and I could be mistaken, but from what I've seen, it's black and white with a splash of one color. Me personally, I think it looks hella cool. But some people, I think it looks hella cool because I don't think it's anything MCG has done so far. So to me, it's very provocative. It's like catches my eye that black and white imagery with one splash of color, either it's red, blue, or green. So
it brings to
some
me.
people seem to not like it.
Well, see, I love that it gives it a noir feeling.
Yeah.
I dig noir. I've always have. I think about um the Sin City movies and the Sin City comic books. They did the same thing. It was all black and white with color splashes throughout. And those color splashes to me just enhance everything else. You start seeing the detail of the black and white, and you get to see the smoke and mirrors idea. It works for me.
Me personally, I'm a big fan of black and white art. So the black and white with the one splash of color, I personally, every image I've seen, I'm like, oh, this looks hella cool. This makes me wanna like really be like pick this up. And like some of the imagery, just the one splash of color, I personally think it really works. But I saw on Twitter there was a couple of people saying, "Oh, I'm not a big fan of the black and white cross hatching pencil drawing," and I guess that's just a personal preference.
Yeah, I would say so.
And just to chime in just a little, I do enjoy it greatly. I love it. I love the art. I love everything we've seen. I love the stuff we've seen kind of back behind the scenes. It's all been quite stellar. And just to read the chat a little bit here, because people are kind of going off about the art a little bit. Most people are saying that they like what they've seen so far. Green is their thing, talking about the Magnus Archives. One person said, I lost the thing. Oh yeah, Daggermouth says, not a great fan of the art style specifically, but for Magnus Archives it fits. So yeah, even if you not a huge fan of it, right? It does really, it's very evocative. And I forget, I think it was, there we go, Ketup who said it. The art provokes that gritty feeling that helps bring a horror quality to things. And that's basically it. That black and white with that splash of color really is that noir type darker feeling, and it's good. It works, I think.
I'll put it this way, because Kid said, it's another reason I'm not sure how I feel about the cover, since the cover art is completely different style than what's inside the book. And see, for me,
Oh,
what'd you say?
that makes sense.
It does. It does. But
who Bear in particular likes to carry a theme throughout the entire project. I agree with Ken up on that. Like like he likes to carry that theme over the entire book.
But
And
I
if you
think
have two different, like, you know,
I think the reason why you get what you I think the reason why the cover looks the way it does though is for that reason. Because the cover to me is you're seeing basically the Magnus Institute. You're seeing the interior of an office or a cubicle, someplace down in the basement where the archives are kept. But everything within the book, when you're looking at the book, is the world that they're peering into. It's it's the artwork of the questions being asked of the oh, there he goes again.
Just keep it going.
But you see what I'm saying? To me, it's basically stating what it is you're investigating. And I think, so you're peering at it through that lens. That's why it's, the color splashes, it's ghosts, it's the supernatural, it's the things that go bump in the night that you can't touch, and that's why, yes, Sumter McGuy, that's what I said earlier, that it definitely put me in the mind of the Night Stalker, just on a much grander scale. Yes, the original Carl Kolchak. Yes, sir. Good stuff.
I'm sorry,
So,
guys. It's raining here, so my internet is acting all wonky. But I'm back.
It's cool. We're keeping it going as you dip it out.
Yeah, I just someone else in chat wrote that it might not be necessarily the finalized art either, so we don't really know because it's they haven't even done any layout. This is just the basic, it's still on the Backerkit what the primer is. So yeah, it might be entirely different when when the final product comes out.
I have a strong feeling I just won't. I think it will. I don't think it will change much from what we're seeing now. It's really on theme. Like it's really good.
I think it's on point, and I think it really, like I said, I think it really kind of works. And I mean, and I see what Kid Up said. He said he sees where I'm coming from, but he doesn't see most people thinking that deep on it, and will mostly prefer consistency in the trade, dress, and design. It's not a bad cover. I do like it, just not fully sold on it. And I get that, but I think that's just something I've started noticing with MCG in general is that they are being innovative in many different ways in their marketing of things and products, how we get them. If you take kind of a sidestep and look at it from the side, you kind of get that. You'll get the impression of kind of a bigger theme or more of a bigger picture.
Yeah, I think most people are like Zeus just wrote. I think it's appropriate for someone who, yeah, I think it's appropriate for someone who knows the show, but someone who doesn't might not draw the eyes of someone who's totally new to it. And I think that's the point everybody's trying to make. It's not that it isn't a cool, like viewing it from the lens as a fan is one thing, but viewing it from the lens of someone who doesn't know the show, it's not like provoking or grabbing to someone that doesn't know the show. You know what I mean? And I think that's a legitimate.
And I'm not saying it's not. I don't know. I'm just coming from being the type of person. I kind of I'm always putting everything. The cover and the title should go together as far as I'm concerned. And I think this one really, really does. And that's just me. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
It's definitely a valid perspective though. Like everyone's saying it, just to echo. If you don't know, you don't know it. You're just gonna think, oh, it's another detective RPG or something like that. Like there's no hints of supernatural or whatever on the cover. Like that's a valid thing.
All right, so yeah, I just want to mention the art thing because I noticed that was like the biggest discussion on a lot of different. It even came up on the CU server, but I know outside the CU server that was like the biggest. Like you'll have someone say, "Oh, I'm really excited," and then someone be, "What is that?" And then another person tries to explain it, but oh, the cover doesn't explain that, and then or the art doesn't explain that, and it was going back and forth. But at the end of the day, anything MCG touches, it's going to be interesting and thought-provoking, and I just want more people, the average fan, to be able to see it. And I think the black and white art absolutely does that. I'm not entirely sold on the cover, but it does going to stop me from picking it up.
You know what? I'll put it this way. I'll say it like this. If you have not experienced the podcast or know anything about the Magnus Archives, yes, I'm going to agree with Anthony. Yes, the cover probably will not catch your eye. But once you listen to it, immerse yourself a little bit, you're going to see just how hella cool that cover is. And the other aspect of it is, just kind of free your mind, broaden your horizons a little bit if you're on the fence about it, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I don't think anyone's on the fence. They just basically talking about whether it's a right choice or not.
I don't know where we are in the discussion. I just know. Sorry, I got spaced out a little. I will say this though, for anyone, or excuse me, Dean mentioned this just now. If you're on the fence about, I'm assuming, watching or listening to it, go do that. I'm not someone who ever listens to podcasts. These guys will tell you I don't listen to podcasts, I don't watch movies, I don't watch really anything. But this I binged in like 4 weeks, strictly listening to it at work. It is so good. So yeah, if you're anyone who's inclined to enjoy this sort of thing, like whether it be an engaging story or whatever, this will grab you hard.
Right, so I have another question. As someone who's heard the whole show, right? What kind of creatures are we expecting to see? Like, without spoilers,
That's hard to say without spoilers. Actually,
think of it this way, Ant. It is definitely cosmic horror / classic ghost stories. I mean, it has all the elements. There's just,
you could cut it right there, and that's a good enough description without spoilers. It's cosmic horror, and then there's a little bit of like a bunch of horror tropes in there. So you think? Okay.
Let me rephrase it, because is it something that you feel that the book is going to have some original style of creatures that we don't traditionally have in the other MCG books?
I will say what Daggermouth just said in the chat, because that's a great way to kind of describe it. The creatures are integral to the story. So the creatures that we see in the story, we should hopefully and should definitely, again, ideally, they'll be statted out for us to see in the book, or at least described in depth. They might not have, again, due to the nature of cosmic horror, then this is without spoilers, it might be kind of hard to actually stat those things. As far as original creatures, I can definitely see them making up creatures that fall within lines of certain things. Again, to avoid spoilers, and that's why I'm phrasing it that way. So yeah, I can see us getting a small, not a huge bestiary, but at least some unique creatures that would help you flesh out the world, so to speak.
And the other thing I think they're going to do, once again, because of like what Al was saying and the nature of some of the creatures, there may be a section where they go into great detail in describing what the creature should invoke or how they should be presented, which I think will be a huge help in the development of whatever it is you're going to have your people facing as well. So
the other question I was going to ask is, how do you think ciphers are going to work in this setting? Is it something that could be easily explained for one-time use items, or is it something that, like ciphers work phenomenal in certain settings, called Numenera, you know what I mean? And then other ones we kind of have to hand weave it in. Do you think this setting is something that we're going to have to hand weave in, or is it going to fit nicely into the overall like genre style of gameplay?
You want to take it out?
Yeah, I'll take it. I think it's gonna fit nicely. I will say this though. What you call it? It's definitely gonna lean. It's gonna be better, I should say, for what you call it, for artifacts. How artifacts work? It's gonna be like artifacts are more of a thing than ciphers within TMA. But that's again not to say everyone else. Excuse me, a bunch of people in chat are saying ciphers will fit. Blah blah blah. Ciphers do like they will work just fine. Again,
Well,
without spoilers, they'll fit.
yeah, I'll put it this way, Anthony. A lot of things are probably going to be built on probably on the manifest side because they'll just be mundane things that you get that will allow you to do, but it'll make sense because it happens here. But then, of course, there's gonna definitely be, stuff that deals in the subtlety because you're gonna have to have people dealing with, the emotional and the stress and the shock and the horror and all of that. So I think it's going to be things like that. And like Al said, they should fit, almost seamlessly.
Real quick, just because KedHub said it perfectly. Ciphers will have manifest ciphers, yeah, obviously. But I also see a heavy reliance on subtle ciphers, and that is an excellent point. Yeah, Dean just said it subtle ciphers. But yeah, that is a great, excellent. That's amazing. Yeah, we will definitely, I think, see a heavy reliance on subtle ciphers due to the nature of the setting.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I'm not gonna lie. Before Monty comes on, I'm a binge watch the whole show.
You gonna try to watch 200 episodes in a week?
I'll binge listen.
Good luck. Good luck.
I did the first season. I did the first season in 2 days. I worked 12-hour days.
I mean, kudos to you for doing that. I think I finished the first season about as fast, actually. The seasons get longer, obviously. But yeah, strap in, man. It's a hell of a ride.
Like I said, when I go back to work, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just listen.
It's so good. Oh my god.
Before I was gonna say now, since we did like a generalization of the story, some of the key mechanics. Now I think we could probably go through the actual Kickstarter. So what do you get for your initial purchase if you back everything, and then we'll go to the stretch goals.
Okay, so if we look at the pledge levels, they start out, of course, as Monte Cook is known for, just for our digital products is for $30, the intern. And then we go to the archival assistant, and that is where you're going to get the books in print and the Magnus Archive in print and a digital copy of it. And that's $75. Next is the investigative team, and that's $199, but you get the deluxe edition of the game. You get the regular book. You get 5 copies of the player's guide, 5 character portfolios in print, and a GM campaign journal in print. And then you get everything else, all those same things in digital and PDF form.
That's the everything pledge level. How much?
No, that's investigative team. No, there's the then there's the archivist, which is just the limited deluxe edition, and the they should have that up there twice. Interesting. And the PDF. Then you have Avatar, which is $279. It says upgrade your whole game with custom editions, including Lettner book plates. Everything that you got from the previous level, plus a XP deck and a set of dice with a book safe presentation box.
Those dice, not for nothing, that box and those dice, I don't know, it seems like every Kickstarter they just the next level with the dice.
The dice, I mean, listen, and people were tripping about the old gods of Appalachia dice.
Yeah, these look better.
Yeah, I know. And then you have the big boy for $349. It's called the entity level, and at the entity level, you get autographed limited deluxe edition of the Magnus Archive role-playing game in print, a guest for Mr. Spider in print, the Magnus Archive role-playing game, of course, in print, the 5 copies of the player's guide, 5 character folios, GM Companion Journal and print, limited dice set, the Lettner book plates, the XP deck, and a set of Magnus Institute file folders, which is hella cool.
Yeah, they look cool. And you see they got like blood stains on them. It looks really cool.
Yeah,
And
so
the first two stretch goals was at 700K. They had the XP deck, and then 950 they had those file folders. So if you back at the everything level, you're already getting those on top of what their initial backing was.
Yo, let me fanboy real fast.
and real quick, Al, before you fanboy, just so everybody knows, if they hit 1.2, when they hit 1.2 million, the deluxe book gets upgraded with full page art plates showing off some of the game's great art. So that's gonna be cool as shit. Now go ahead and fanboy.
All right, so because you mentioned a couple things that are already included, dice are awesome. The book plates are freaking amazing. Anybody who's gotten to that point in the story, you know what they are. Oh my god, I cannot wait to have book plates. And then we get an actual copy of A Guest for Mr. Spider. Oh my god, like that story is like a really big part of TMA's lore. Like holy shit, I was not expecting to see a physical copy of that. Like
I was just about to ask, who the hell is Mr. Spider?
It's a children. Yeah, I will just say this: it's a children's story that's a big part of the TMA story. That's all. And again, I am so stoked that they are including a physical copy, like an actual book of that. Like, oh my god, like, bruh, that's amazing.
And I'm gonna say this: I was never a deluxe edition guy, in my entire role playing career until I became a fan of MCG. The deluxe edition books MCG put out, it could have the same exact interior content as the regular book, but they just so damn pretty. They look so nice on your shelf. They feel so sturdy. The gold bookmark, they just freaking beautiful books. We should be getting our Cypher System Core Deluxe soon.
Yes.
I think the coupons dropped for those actually.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I already.
Oh yeah, the coupons are out for those. That's what
I have not redeemed mine.
Yeah. I was just looking over here, and I was just looking at my deluxe editions of Numenera, Discovering Destiny, and my original Cypher System rule book. And it's like, Anthony's right. They just pretty.
Yeah, they do a hell of a deluxe. The campaign journal. You know how the campaign journal looked like or the previous ones look like flip books. This actually looks like a full-on book.
Like a hard journal. Yeah, it looks like a hardcover journal.
Yeah,
as well.
Oh, and speaking of which, did you guys check out the journal that we're getting from the Backerkit for our coupons?
What journal are you talking for? What
Path of the Plane Breaker.
But we're not here talking about that.
No, I'm kidding. I was just talking about, did you look at the journal? That's all.
I'm looking at the GM campaign journal we get with this. Like, this shit is, like, I'm so pumped about this stuff that we're getting. Like, oh my god, it's going to be so good.
I'll go beat my ass.
Oh, you got the boomers. You got boomer in it.
Oh man, I am so freaking excited for all the stuff we're going to get.
The XP cards look really cool too because they look slightly different. It kind of. I think like the art style on this is totally different for anything they've ever done. Like like the XP cards here look like the Remember the cards? I know that at Game On Con and Gen Con, the specialty XP cards.
Those cards that yeah. For the weird that had the weird card on.
Yeah, it's more of that style than the traditional XP cards. They look really cool. What's the significance of green? Everyone is mentioning green too.
It's just a color they use a lot in their stuff. I don't think it really has a thing with the story. Just a lot. Like if you listen to the podcast,
I think that's just kind of what they chose as their color overall. But
yeah. It's just like the color of their logo, the color of if you the podcast cover, it's all greenish and black and whatnot.
People are asking for GM screens.
Normally I'm like I don't care about GM screen, but like it kind of fits for this. Like, it would, yeah, because I can't. I don't want to say too many spoilers or any spoilers, but a GM screen that hides information is kind of fitting. It's just thematic. Like, even if I don't have anything fucking on there behind my side, it's just thematic. Like,
I will tell you, I know I was like, but after I watched the show, I was spoiled everything. I just get spoiled all.
I gotta add a fucking, just because you mentioned it, where you meant, again, for people who weren't here earlier, Anthony dropped a huge spoiler, and I'm gonna have to actually do editing. I'm gonna add a text screen before that drop, like, yo, skip to this time if you want to avoid.
The funny thing is, since I didn't watch the show, I have no idea what the hell was on there anyway. So I'm pretty sure that it's gonna be the same for someone that
No, honestly, just real talk, it will probably go over most people's heads what it actually means.
It went over my head, and I was the one reading it.
I will say though that you did kind of say the ending though.
Yeah.
But either way though, I'm not saying it again, and it will be. I will have a proper warning in the YouTube
video. And real quick.
Going into an RPG, the ending is what you make it, dude.
But for the people who haven't seen the podcast, like.
Real quick, guys. I just want to add to what Al was saying about the GM screen. Yes, it would really be cool if we had a GM screen that was portrait style, that looked like a file folder that had a little zipper on it. You unzip it and then you could open it up because it looked like a planner. It would be cool as hell. So just throwing it out there, MCG. GM screen, portrait style, looks like a planner. Even has a little zipper on it to zip it closed.
Zoop said it occurs to me that the Magnus Archives is like X-Files, but British and weird supernatural horror instead of aliens.
Absolutely,
that's a pretty good breakdown.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I'm beyond excited for this.
He's about to say words. I can't spoil that now because I don't know anything.
Yeah,
Please spoil a warning for next week when we have Monty on.
Because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Kev. It is like the Men of Letters from Supernatural as well.
Oh boy.
So another thing I'm gonna ask: what do you guys want as a stretch goal? I always want the same thing. I always want a bestiary, even without knowing the setting. I want a bestiary as a stretch goal. What do you guys would want as stretch goals?
Well, I told you I'm with Al. I want the GM screen that's made like a planner with a zipper on it, so I can unzip it and stuff. And maybe some little magnet markers, maybe so I can put notes and stuff. Yeah, I want. That's what I want.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna try to be as spoiler free as possible while saying this. I want to see as a stretch goal a collection of 14 list of abilities, like spell books essentially, for players to be able to just have once they choose that particular book, so to speak.
That particular path.
That particular path, so to speak. That's a good way to put it. I think that would be awesome and would be very thematic. You have it just on hand. It would be a quick way to, have what, is your, I don't want to be too spoiler with it, but it would be awesome to have that.
Elza above the Bard. I'd say not so much like the Watchers on Buffy, but more like the Watchers from the old Highlander TV show.
Would this make sense? A series of audio recordings, since it has a cassette.
Audio recordings would be amazing, but again, how do you do you make a camp, or would they release that with a campaign? Like what would these sound bites be of?
Well, here's the thing. Do sound bites be
cassette player with a damn cassette?
Well, the sound bites The sound bites could be, things from the game. I mean, from the game, from the podcast, sounds from the podcast, things like that. Of course, we're not going to get it all on cassette tapes because everybody doesn't have cassettes. But they even said that the cassettes that we're getting with the audio on there will be available for download, so they could just have a series of sounds and things like that. That you could like plug in for your mysteries and so on and so forth. I think that would be amazing.
Something Mac guy wrote. What if it was a fake cassette player that opens up to a GM screen? That's pretty cool too.
That's a great idea. Yeah, there's just so many cool things they could do. And again, I can't go into too much. There's so much spoilers behind like my wants. So I will just end with my wants on that 14 different books thing.
Yeah, Oh Gods had that the music download.
Yeah, the ambient sound and music. Yeah, I gotta download that.
That would actually be fantastic for I'm not for Old Gods, for TMA. Something that's prevalent in the TMA thing, like again, if you're running games online, it would be awesome to have it like that running tape recorder noise, like that's like a running thing. And just like the creepy sounds you hear, like the soundscapes they use, that would be just awesome to have on hand for your online games. Yeah, that would be amazing.
That's also I was about made me think of something. How compatible is Old Gods and the Magnus Archive? You think how like interchangeable you think they'll be if you, like say you didn't have any of the cipher books, you just came from the podcast. Like, you was the podcast fan, and you have Old Gods and Magnus Archive. How compatible would those two be?
What's crazy about that is that it would work damn near seamlessly. But the reality of it is it still would be two different storytelling styles. Because if you're looking at Old Gods, you're looking at normal, mundane people who live this world and have embraced the ideologies of this world. Whereas if you flip it over on the other side, looking at the Magnus Archives, these are investigators who are trying to figure out and uncover, the supernatural, the hidden. So, and like they were saying with the Magnus Institute, and I don't want to tell. Well, yeah, a few people know that, and there are other places like the Magnus Institute in other countries. They make reference to one in China. They make reference to the sister facility in the United States, and so it would not be hard to do like Old Gods and have, a 1930s or a 1940s version of the Magnus Institute doing some investigations in Appalachia. It would be seamless.
That's always good.
Yeah, yep. I agree with Dean. That's just nail on head.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this. I'm super ready to see I'm more excited to see what this overall Kickstarter number is going to be. I think it's going to be well over 3 million now. And I'm super excited to see what the stretch goals are. And I think this goes without saying, every time we talk about any crowd-funded MCG product, if you back at the everything level, I guarantee you're going to get 5 or 6 times what you put in with additional products, because that's what I always back at, and I always get well above my money's worth. That there's like you're going to get well above whatever you put in, you're going to get well above it. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I do. Well, you know that, and we always get to everything. Eliza Bub, they said you're blowing my mind thinking about an Appalachia Archive chapter. Old Gods also has a digital prop crafting kit. Would be super cool to have a Magnus Archive centric version. Hey, that would be cool too.
Yeah, I'm beyond excited for this. Like, I think I could talk about this all night. Quite honestly, like.
You think this is going to be a favorite setting for MCG?
So that's hard to say because again, as you all know, I'm not a setting guy. Like as much as I'm losing my mind over this, as you know, as you can plainly see. But as far as favorites go, like it's hard to have an actual favorite because it's really how I'm feeling at the time. I might be feeling cosmic horror, or I might be feeling little Dino Companions, or I might be feeling, you know, super gods, you know, whatever. Like, so it's hard to have an actual favorite. But I will say this: this is the the most I've been excited about anything they've done so far up to date. Like I have not been this level of excited for anything else they've done.
What's funny is I've just watched you, Al. You Predation came out, you were like that dude, that was your thing. Then they did Title Blades and you started jumping out of your skin. And now, you know, the Magnus Archive. So I wonder if they can top themselves. You know,
In the future, it's gonna be rough after this one, unless they get some like crazy IP. Like it's gonna be rough to top this one for me personally.
well, I know, I'm just saying though, but I'm with you, Al. This has been it's an interesting choice. I think it's a perfect choice for MCG. And yeah,
Somebody brought up a good point in chat, which is I'm gonna put a pin in that because I think it's a great idea for a show. But does MCG have too many settings? Well, that's a great topic for another chat.
we'll definitely take that one. I'll take that one on.
Actually, a great topic. I have a lot of opinions on that. But yeah, it's a great topic for a chat. We're definitely gonna bring that up in a later episode. But final thoughts, Magnus Archives. Chat.
3.3 million.
How excited?
Put it in my mouth. Put it in my mouth right now. I'll eat it. Give it to me. I want it. I'm so excited.
How many stretch goals you think they're gonna hit?
Well, if they're going at a rate of one every 250,000, and we're talking about 3.3 million, then you know what is that? 4, 8, so about 12.
Yeah, that's good. That's gonna be that's crazy. So there's a lot of stuff they could do.
Right, and I mean, and think about it, and we should actually take a poll of more stretch goals and send it to them.
What you call it? I am
next Thursday, and we'll see where they at as stretch goals and where they at money wise.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think we kind of beat the nail on the head with this one.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I could talk about this all fucking night. So
we can stop on the tape recorder right now. Stop recording.
I'm gonna basically say this. Back to Magnus Archives. Play some Magnus Archives. Listen to the Magnus Archives, and let them have some money. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's so good. Listen to it and back this. If you haven't already done those two things, go do both those things right now.
and like always, you know, back what you could afford. You could always come back on the Backerkit and get it later. You know, like they always extend it past. So even if you don't have enough to back the entire thing, you know, you could put what's the $1 back, the $10 back, and then go back and pick it up. Because some of the stuff you will only be able to get on the Backerkit. So you know, if you want to go back and you know, like after it closes and pick something up, you'll still be able to do that by backing it at some level.
Right, and you know, there's always the late pledges too. But if you can get in there, like Anthony said, do it now. You know, take advantage of it, and
you saw I can't help. Well, I would absolutely love if they did that. The stretch goal would be just me spoiling everything.
2 hours.
It just says every major spoiler on stream.
Laser Tez said, "Do I smell a Cypher creepy con?"
We were just talking about this off air, guys. We're probably gonna want to do some horror, like live streams. So
during this month,
yeah, for the month of October at least. So we definitely want to talk about doing some old gods. So we definitely gonna need some players, and we're gonna need some activity, because we do want to do some sort of like horror themed event on the server. So yeah, we gotta figure out how to work out the logistics of that. But we definitely want to do some horror themed stuff on the server. Either stream some games, maybe figure out, play something different. Maybe taking like Cthulhu or something that's a known commodity for another game and cipherizing it. We haven't fully worked out the details, but we definitely want to do some creepy stuff.
And I guess if saying it on stream, I guess kind of cements it. So I will say it just to put some urgency on myself. I should and will do a TMA game in October for Spooky Month. I don't know if it's going to be on stream. I will throw that little caveat in there. But I do want to run a game. And the fact that, what was kind of spoiled earlier, I'm not going to repeat it, but what was said kind of spurs me on, because that I had an idea in mind, but it was sort of like a alternate universe idea, but it will fit now. It works. So, yeah, it should be fun.
And as far as that's concerned, yeah. Let's talk after the stream for a minute, fellas. I got a couple of things. Yeah, good stuff. And thanks for coming out, everybody.
Yep. If you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monte Cook Games. We have the largest fan-run server for everything MCG, including the Magnus Archives and spoilers. So head on over there if you haven't already. Play games, chat about games, hang out with us, hang out with all these great people here on the stream as well. If Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but we have many great conversations being had there. Follow us here or sub on Twitch. We greatly appreciate it. Or go to our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe there. We're really trying to build the headcount on both those platforms, and it'll be greatly appreciated. If you want to help us out financially in any way, our videos are always free, but you could give us a little donation on Ko-fi. It helps us out with little things like Zoom course, or go to our online store and pick up some Cypher Unlimited merch, like the shirt D got on or the hat I got on. And we still have Cypher stuff available. It's going to be up to the end of the month, the next month, before we start removing that.
Let's give the hard thing. Let's say end of September. We'll give you a whole month to get that shirt. And yeah, after September, they will be off the store.
Yeah, so if you you went to CypherCon and had enjoyed yourself, had a great time, help us out a little bit and pick up a CypherCon shirt. It'll be greatly appreciated. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for stopping by. As you can see, I'm hella excited for this, so look forward to seeing more excited Ancient on stream. This is going to be a hell of a ride. So from us at the CU, we will see you later.